Ever wonder what that space between Apondali and Mount Shavir is? Yes? Well, let me tell you a story of me going there. That place is called Empty. Empty is where all the recycled animals go. Now, when animals get recycled, you may think the game just gets rid of all their pixels, so that the animal really doesn't exist anymore. Well, if this is what you think, then you are mistaken. You are dead mistaken. When the animals are recycled, they are pulled into the ground by phantoms. I remember the rush of adrenaline as the phantoms pulled me into the ground with such a force that my skin was beginning to bleed from the friction. I remember struggling and trying all I could to escape the painful grip of the phantoms. Once they pulled me underground, I stopped struggling. I felt like I couldn't move. My stomach was dropping. I slowly and cautiously opened my eyes one by one and looked around. I moved my paws to my face, and I saw that they were covered in scratches and blood. My head was starting to hurt, so I put my paws to my head. My once soft tuft of fur was now mangled and covered in knots. I suddenly realized that I was falling, and falling, and falling, and the deeper I fell, the hotter it got. That's when I really started to panic. The adrenaline rush was over, and I suddenly realized I didn't know why I was here. And why me? I closed my eyes to stop tears from leaking out of them. It was really hard. I turned so that I was falling face first, and I looked down at what could probably be my death. At the bottom of what at first seemed like a bottomless hole, I could see the faint shape of some animals. Horses, bunnies, koalas, tigers, foxes laying dead on the ground. I turned back so I wouldn't fall face first. I hit the hard, cold, and hot ground. The ground was so incredibly hot that I had to stand on one of the corpses so my paws wouldn't burn. I thought it was disgusting, but I needed to survive. I looked around at my surroundings. It was a dark room that was moist in the air and smelled like rotting flesh. Besides the faint sound of water dripping from somewhere in the ceiling, it was quiet. Too quiet. After what seemed like hours but was probably seconds, I saw a message on the wall written on crimson paint. No, written in blood. I read the message. Sorry, you've been recycled. I suddenly couldn't hold back any tears. I started sobbing like a baby when it was separated from its mother. Mother. I'll never see my mother again. I'll never see my family again. I'll never see my friends, or my enemies, or anyone alive again. I ran around desperately, ignoring the heat burning my paws, looking for a way, any way out of this death dungeon. Help! I screamed. I looked up at the hole in which I fell from, and I saw the top of the hole was covered in a blue pod. Under the blue pod said, "Click here, make a new animal." I saw a mouse click, and I started screaming, No, 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 no. That's my spot. I should be there. I suddenly saw the blue pod turn into an Arctic wolf. Of course, Arctic wolf. No one likes foxes anymore. I sigh. I sit down on a corpse crying. I fall asleep in my tears. I dreamt that I was again happily playing and talking to my friends. I would miss them, especially my friend Snowflake, aka Arctic 56066. 3 days later, I die from thirst and depression. I am now a spirit forced to linger in silence among all the other spirits and corpses. I can fly to Jamad, but no one can see me or hear me, and no one ever does fly back to Jamad. It's too painful to see best friends or your family again. Animal Jam doesn't want anyone to know about Empty, so they cover it with a simple picture of mountains and a river. But if you look closely, you can still see the shape of the first spirit to ever linger and empty in the river. His mark is left in all the places of Jamad, the river to be exact. So, The next time you decide to recycle an animal, please reconsider. I'm not supposed to be telling you any of this, but what's the worst that could happen?